Adidar professed to be enlightened, to be awake. He was Franklin Jones at the time. He was in such a position, or in such a place, that he had no one to disagree with him. I believe he was living with his wife and possibly his girlfriend at the time. And he waited for people to recognize his enlightenment, his state, his disposition. Adidar did not belong to any community. He stood alone, or Franklin Jones, I should say, as far as I understand. He even told his gurus where he was at and where they were at. As far as I understand, he didn't belong to any, what are these groups called that Adidam have? These consideration groups. Can you imagine Franklin Jones sitting in a group of other men being told where he was at? He was one-pointed. He knew what he wanted. He wanted to realize the bright once again and live as the bright. And then he found a group of people who acknowledged him. And then he built his empire, community, whatever you want to call it, based on that recognition. People were attracted to him initially. Maybe they weren't attracted to him full time, but initially they signed up. And they became his devotees or disciples or students or even slaves. You're not going to tell me that the whole of the Adidam institution was built from the place of love and happiness full time. No. It was built from anxiety and concern. Much of the time, I'm sure. I came to Adidar not by, I don't know, one could say by accident, or fate brought me to his book, The Need of Listening and the Method of the Siddhas. But I recognized the truth that he was telling me. And I'm happy to convey this to you. That the truth is, this activity of the self-contraction is what is at the root of a non-enlightened life, as it were, a non-awakened life. It's just a drama of the clenched fist stuff. I heard immediately because I wanted to hear, I wanted a way out of my suffering, my intense suffering that I was doing to myself and I thought the world was doing to me. I suffered immediately from being a baby right through, and I still suffer occasionally because I am not full-time in this disposition. I still do the self-contraction, but I am enlightened to the fact that I do it, and then Adidar is my resort, even right now. I'm still S-T-I-L-L, capital S. There's a restfulness in me. I feel in communion. I feel being lived by God. I feel the Spirit. I feel whatever you want to call it. This disposition I am in is God-made. Now, Adidar went on and on and on right through his life. Did he do it because he wanted to try and convince the people that came to him that he was enlightened? He was always telling people where they were at. Generally, that is. I don't know whether he told individuals as much as he would speak to large groups of people. But yes, he did say. He kept people, I believe, he kept people in place in their narcissistic disposition. Instead of analysing them and telling them where they're at, surely all he should have said was, keep turning to me. Just turn to me. I can see where you're at. Just turn to me. The turning dissolves this. The turning immediately. Doesn't matter what the content is. The root is the self-contraction. Doesn't matter what the results of the self-contraction are. It's in that turning that you feel this love communion. And then you're allowing God to do its work in your body-mind. And then your body-mind becomes a vehicle. It blossoms, it shines, it is brightened. I have never been a student in that sense. I've loved what I've read, and I could hear what was being said. Now, what's provoked this video this morning is I was having a video link with a formal devotee, and he was telling me where I was at. He was saying, I can see why people are pissed off by you, Peter. But people were pissed off by Adidar. But Adidar stayed in place, just as I did. I've given my other cheek so many times, but I'm not a victim. He seemed to feel he had a right to tell me where I am at, as if I was also a formal devotee. Because once you become a formal devotee, you're signing on the dotted line. You're giving people permission to tell you where you're at all the time. He was not a representative of what I would call a true devotee of Adidar Samraj. He wasn't displaying signs of self-understanding. If I asked him a question, he wondered why I was asking him it. What was the hidden agenda behind it, as it were? I don't know whether he recognized my love for him. I mentioned it to him. I could embrace him, and I was with him at all times. I wasn't avoiding. I wasn't moving away. I was there with him every time. He told me I wasn't a listener. I heard every word he said. But why should I listen to bullshit? Why should I be attacked? But there we are. If people want to attack me, they can do. I've had so much abuse in my life. As a child, as a teenager, people used to shout from across the street, "You pufter, you bummer." I didn't even know what some of these words meant that they called me. For years that went on and off. Going to school, I can see it now. I was psychologically abused every day of my life. I have no desire to be part of Adidam. However, just like a musician, I am capable of playing piano duets with another person, and they're great fun to do. So I'm happy to play with other devotees, with God, and celebrate Adidar's life in our lives, his presence in our lives. I couldn't be doing this little video right now if it wasn't for my love for God. I have a job to do, which isn't egoic. It's just simply that I am a vehicle of expressing God in my life and then, therefore, in the lives of others. I prayed to God when I was 23. I don't want any scaffolding holding me up. There are books out there, Conversation with God, Conversations with God. I could write those books. Where is the love and the happiness shining through his devotees into the world? Why isn't his work recognized? God will do his work, its work, if you are available. I have no interest in being enlightened from an ego point of view, but I am enlightened. He's enlightened me. He's given me the self-understanding to stay with God, to feel God, to realize God in the moment. He's enlightened me to the fact there's nowhere else to go. There's no techniques. There's no therapists. He stood as an individual. He knew what he was at. Nothing was holding him up. I noticed that on that first video, the introduction to the way of the heart, way of divine grace. That's all it is, it's grace. So if there were a group of devotees in the room with me right now, what would they be saying? Would they recognize my love for Adidar? Would they recognize God speaking through me? Would they recognize he is a vessel, a vehicle of God's expression? Do I need to put a face on? I said to the person I was speaking to, there's no place for ecstasy in Adidam, real ecstasy. The people doing puja, also serious. Everything has to be perfect, just right. Are they ecstatic? Maybe they are. I don't know. It's a personal relationship with God. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It's not cultic. Not meant to be cultic. When I had these consideration groups, the men ganged up on me, as it were. I was told I never did the yamas and niyamas that I was given. But when you're in love, you forget. You just simply forget. It's not an egoic way of life. It's a devotional way of life. It's a surrendering way of life. It's a way of life of self-forgetting, God remembering. Am I supposed to forget my love for God? But I do understand that I should have realized that the yama or niyamas were coming from God, possibly. Adida has told me that true devotees, great devotees, aren't necessarily recognized. They won't have any important jobs or important positions. Necessarily. The person I was talking to, he had many desires to fulfill. He's obviously not a true devotee, not yet. What makes one a true devotee? For me, it's great suffering. And then one sees there's only God. Don't have to continue with the picture ready down in my hand, because there is only God. Am I allowed to be a realizer? Am I allowed to be a hearer, a seer? Using that word I again, because there's no I. Only the activity of self-contraction can be referred to as I. If there's no self-contraction, Alida often asked, "Where are my true devotees?" I'd say, "I'm here, Lord." When I was a formal devotee, I did all the disciplines, I worked hard, I earned loads of money for the community. My integrity was great, but I didn't fit in. I wasn't one of them. And that's what Alidar wasn't. He wasn't one of them. And there are many people out in the world who come from the same place as Alidar. But Alidar was very articulate. He was able to write so many books and talk for hours on end. So Adidam, I'm sorry I'm not living up to what is expected of me as a person who wants to be a formal devotee. I'm not one of those. I'm simply a lover of God. always have been, always been attracted to that greater greatness. Thank you for listening. God bless.